Metal Gear Solid 3 is a single-player game created in 2004 and takes place in a fictional region of Russia close to Kazakhstan known as Selinoyarsk. The game revolves around the development of a superweapon able to fire missiles from any sort of terrain, which if mass developed, would end the Cold War and start the creation of a new world war. In comparing the game to real historical events that could have taken place during that time, you get some interesting details of how the game successfully relates to reality, as well as where it fails in that concept as well. Set in the 1960s during the height of geopolitical tension between the United States and the Soviet Union, the game's fictional region of Selinoyarsk near Kazakhstan isn't a real location, but could be seen as a close replica of a real-life swamp that goes by the name of the Vasugan. The Vasugan swamp, which was also close to Kazakhstan, was also under Soviet rule during that time, making the game pretty accurate to reality. Delving deeper into the setting, Selinoyarsk can also be linked to actual secretive locations used by the Soviet Union for weapon development and testing. Kazakhstan, home to the Baikonur Cosmodrome and various nuclear test sites, represents the clandestine nature of Cold War era research and development. These sites were often shrouded in mystery and heavily guarded, much like the game's depiction of militarized zones and secret labs. Metal Gear Solid 3 not only grounds its fiction in the reality of Cold War secrecy, but also pokes the atmosphere of suspicion and intrigue that was spread throughout that period. The development of the fictional Shagohod claimed to be
Behemoth, a tank capable of launching nuclear IRBMs.
It can launch nuclear missiles from that kind of terrain?
Oh yes, and without support from friendly units.
A nuclear-equipped tank capable of operating solo.
Though an unrealistic superweapon capable of launching nuclear missiles from any terrain sounds silly, it echoes the real-life arms race where both superpowers sought technological supremacy. The race was characterized by the creation of increasingly devastating weapons, a perpetual cycle of one-upmanship that kept the world teeter-tottering on the brink of annihilation. In a way, the in-game events mirror the Cuban Missile Crisis both in intentions and actions, as shown by both the US and the Soviet Union. Not only this can be inferred, but the game also brings it to light in some of its dialogue.
Glove. Something between the KGB and GRU, between Khrushchev's supporters and Volgans.
Sokolov was being guarded by the KGB and hunted by GRU? Snake, it sounds like this could be even hotter than Cuba.
I don't like it. Something about the whole...
The tensions seem to have a lot of parallels which can be related to the Cuban Missile Crisis, where the parallels can be seen as the following. The threat of nuclear Armageddon. Both scenarios have the looming threat of a full-scale nuclear war grasping at the neck of the world, which could possibly wipe out surrounding countries as well as the rest of the world. Both had some sort of weapon of mass destruction. While in the Cuban Missile Crisis, it was a threat of missiles that could end the world, Metal Gear had the fictional Shagohod, a nuclear-armed tank that could bring mass destruction with ease. Spying and espionage. Oh boy, what would Metal Gear Solid be without espionage? Obviously, the game contains espionage, but as did the Cuban Missile Crisis, both heavily influenced by covert ops and intelligence, where missions that posed high tensions for both sides were done to protect both sides. Diplomatic maneuvering. Both games had diplomatic maneuvering between presidents and Premier Khrushchev, which aided in avoiding confrontation. Some could say that due to the negotiations from the Cuban Missile Crisis, the opportunities of negotiations were opened up in Metal Gear Solid 3. The Shagohod itself can be seen as an allegory for the arms race's most notorious products, such as the Intercontinental Ballistic Missile, ICBM, just as the ICBM revolutionized militarized strategy by enabling strikes from a great distance. The Shagohod's versatility symbolizes a shift in warfare dynamics. The mere possibility of such a weapon existing would exacerbate Cold War tensions, much like the deployment of real-life nuclear missiles in Europe and Asia did in the 1960s. The game's portrayal of this technological marvel captures this era's anxieties and the relentless push for innovation, mirroring historical projects like the Soviet Union's R-7 Semyorka, the first ICBM, and the American Minuteman missiles.
We have no further use for Sokolov's research facility. I think it's time I gave this marvelous new toy a try.
Colonel, even if they are our enemies, they're still our countrymen.
But it won't be me that pulled the trigger. It'll be our friend, the American defector.
You're going to nuke your fellow Russians?
Remember the Alamo.
Colonel!
What you just saw was the Davy Crockett being used in Metal Gear Solid. Technology such as the Davy Crockett was also available at that time, which, if you don't know what it is, the Davy Crockett is a tactical nuclear recoilless gun created by the United States in 1961 and was designed to be used against the infantry and tanks in the case that Soviet Union invaded Europe. Some key details to know are that it came in two versions, a light and a heavy version. Both could fire a W-54 nuclear warhead. Its range is between 2 to 4 kilometers, and it has a yield of 10 to 20 tons of TNT, making it one of the smallest and weakest nuclear weapons ever created. Unfortunately, it never gained much traction due to its small range. The game does make a pretty accurate, make an accurate representation of the actual weapon. However, it was slightly exaggerated in its ease of use and practicality, as the blast doesn't seem to damage its user, Colonel Volgin. Overall, Metal Gear Solid 3 serves as an entertaining game where historical realities and fictional ideas converge. The game's plot, characters, and settings are rooted in the real life tensions of the time and the technical advancements of the 1960s, offering players a view of the past where the threat of global conflict loomed large and the race for military superiority was a game of shadows and subterfuge. This blender of fact and fiction not only builds the game's story, but also provides a profound view of the era's geopolitical climate, making Metal Gear Solid 3 a fantastic combo of history and entertainment. But you're so supreme. I give my life not for honor, but for you, Snake Eater. In my time, there'll be no one else. Crime is the way I fly to you, Snake Eater. I'm still in a dream, Snake Eater. Someday you go through the rain, and someday you'll feed on a tree frog. This ordeal, the trial to survive, for the day we see you lie. I give my life, not for honor, but for you. In my time, there'll be no one else. Cry. I fly to you. I'm still in a dream, Snake Eater. Shit. I'm still in a dream,